think it's trying to go live. You want me to hit recording as soon as it starts?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Good job.
Oh, I think it's recording. It's already recording.
Oh, all
Okay,
right.
here we go. Here we go. We are live for the first session of Electric James Inspirational Talks. Yay!
Yahoo!
This is a wonderful place
Yay!
to be. Being a potter is
It
a
is.
wonderful thing.
It is. It is. It is.
Just
And
want to
we are
welcome
ready to.
everybody back to the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. This year we're going to be doing pop ups because we had some cancellations last time and more cancellations than we wanted, but we made it happen. So I just decided, and I spoke with Jackie, and we agreed we just do the pop ups. But we're in for a season.
Well,
What you think
you know
about that,
what?
Jackie? What you
We
think about that?
we are ready to rock and roll. That's what it is.
That's what it
Um,
is. That's what it is.
See, I'm making sure.
And
I'm still doing a little bit of my technical stuff here on this end,
that's all right.
and are we're definitely live.
We
Okay.
live. We live.
Um, so before we get started on our topic,
Yes.
let's talk about the new year.
Okay. So,
What? I got to put my mute on. Okay. So tell me, what exciting happened in your life over the holidays?
well, over the holidays, I got a lot of rest. Got a chance to enjoy
That's
my
exciting.
family, and even learn how to work Instagram and work reels and create them. And I'm going to say this because I really didn't know that it was God that was doing it, that He opened up the channels of my mind so that I could really honestly sit down and pay attention to what He was doing in my life and not just what He's done in the past, but it's like He revealed the purpose of all of this social media stuff. He brought me out of a dark corner in my
Yeah.
life, as you
Yeah.
know, as well as a lot of other
Hmm.
people, and I've been open and honest about it with my skin and all of that.
Hmm.
And it's like
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
showed me how to appreciate who you
Excellent.
are, because a lot of times
Excellent.
our actions really
Hmm.
can impact more people than we know. So one of the
Hmm.
things he gave to me was you need to wake up excited. You need to wake up
And
excited.
you you talked about that on your podcast in the
Mm-hmm.
morning a little bit, and
Yes.
it's it's really been motivational to me, because I'm not always excited, and yeah, we also unfortunately lost a dear friend.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, okay.
well, you did. She's a dear friend to Electra, and because she's a dear friend to Electra, she was a dear friend to me.
Yes.
I felt like I knew her well, although we'd never physically met.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a hard thing,
Mm-hmm.
but we know where she is. We know that
Yes.
she's with God. So, we will miss her,
Yes.
but
Yes.
her pain is gone.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Hmm. And
Exactly.
we're really looking forward. I'm looking forward to the people who have, talked about kind of coming on.
Yes.
Moretta is going to come back on.
Yes.
Brandon is going to come on again.
Yes.
Um,
We have
Decorian.
Reverend King who will be on Monday. He's
Okay, because
running
he's
for
not available on
Galveston,
Wednesday.
right? And he
Yeah.
is going to come on and talk about his candidacy as
Hmm.
as running for Galveston County Judge. Um,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that's one of
Okay.
the things people that know
That's
me know
exciting.
that I love politics because I feel like the side I like about it is the laws. We have to know where we're at when it comes to the laws, and you
I
can't
agree.
complain if you're not attentive to what's going on.
And that's right.
You can't
That's right.
complain.
I'll tell you, I've been voting absentee for years, but
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to vote absentee this year
Right.
because I'm
Yeah.
worried about my vote getting counted. And I know, it's a hassle to get a disabled, to be a disabled person trying to get into a voting place to vote.
Uh-huh.
But all this political mess that's going on, the parties
Yes.
fighting each other, I just want to vote for the right. I want to
Yes.
build back better.
Yes.
And I'm going to make sure that my vote counts, even though I don't live in Galveston County, so I won't be, in the judge, running to vote for Reverend King. But every person in this country,
Yes.
every person over the age of 18 has 18 and older has the right to vote.
And
if
must.
you don't vote,
Don't complain.
then how can you? Don't complain, and don't try to go taking advantage of social systems. Don't go saying, oh well, I deserve a COVID supplemental check, or I deserve this, or I deserve that. You didn't take part in the process.
In the process. I am so glad that you said that, and it's leading into the podcast on next week, and I'm excited about him coming on and really talking about his campaign and things that he's looking at doing. If he's granted that opportunity, I know that he is a very good man. He is. In fact, he was real close and did all he could for my late husband when he was living. And I know that he loves the community. I know that he loves the people, and I know that voting is important to him. And I believe this podcast here, I'm looking forward, Jacqueline, I'm reaching out to some other people about coming on to talk about working polls and things like that.
That would be very interesting.
Just want people to know that we're not on bashing anybody. No matter what party that you choose to take part. All we're saying is read up on the candidates that you're voting for. We all can do something. But the last thing that you want to do is sit it out. We cannot just sit it out. And everybody, I hear Joe Madison say this on Sirius XM 126 every day. Everybody can do something. Everybody.
That's right.
So
that's right.
We're not saying, myself nor Jackie, we're not saying you got to only be interested in one party. We're just saying
whatever we're interested in.
Participate, right? Participate. Let your voice
be
heard.
Be heard. Yeah. Participate in your country. Participate.
Yes.
This is your country. No matter what your ideology is, this is your country. If you live here, it's your country. Participate. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I do have something going on. I have talked to Electra about it, and I want to ask all of the viewers, especially our stalwarts, they're always with us. I'm asking for your prayers for me.
Yes.
Because you all know I had broken bones last year. I broke my ribs in July, and I broke my arm in October. Somehow in the process of all this, of just eating too much fast food and whatever, my blood sugar is out of control.
Okay.
And I'm working hard to get it back under control.
Okay.
I'm skipping the potatoes, and I haven't had a potato chip in a month. I miss it. But I'm working hard. I need surgery on my neck.
Okay.
because apparently when I fell and broke my arm, or it could have even been when I broke my ribs, I don't know, I damaged some vertebrae in my neck, and I cannot feel my fingers.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can feel them.
Mhm.
They're just, I can feel them. They're very painful.
Yes.
It's like pins and needles constant,
Yes.
in
Oh.
my finger.
Yes.
And so I go tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm praying. One of the things I need everybody's prayer for tonight is that the icy roads won't hit until after both Electra and I get our doctor's appointments done to go home.
Yes. Yes.
Because I really need to go to this doctor's appointment to see if my sugar is in control enough for me to have this surgery.
Surgery. Okay.
Because if my blood sugar doesn't get in control, then we have to do something else.
Yes.
Because the neurosurgeon and everybody is like, if we give you the whatever we do for surgery,
Mhm.
it could send your blood sugar. It could, over the top.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
So I'm just asking. I'm just going to put it out there tonight. Before we even get started talking on our topic for tonight, that I
Yes.
need your prayers because I need to get this under control. I can't type. I
Mhm.
can type,
Right.
but I have to watch the keyboard
Mhm.
because I can't feel what I'm touching. And I type by touch. I don't know if you,
Yeah.
I'm a writer, right? We've talked about that.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I can't write because I don't look at the keyboard when I type. I type by touch, but I
Yeah.
can't feel the keyboard.
Okay.
And when I try to do it looking at the keyboard, it's so frustrating
Mhm.
because it takes me, one finger at a time, and it gets on my nerve. I just can't. My nerves can't handle that. And so
Yes.
I really need some. I need some prayer juice is what I need.
Yes.
Some prayer juice. So
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to ask for that for myself as we go into this new season that we're opening.
I definitely will be praying for you, and I know that our viewers will be praying for
I know
you.
too. I know
And
too.
we've been so blessed to have a lot of people, just praying for this podcast,
Yes,
praying for
yes.
us as individuals that's trying to get out here and allow people the opportunity to come on, and tell their
Mhm,
stories.
mhm,
I
mhm,
mean,
mhm,
there's blessings all around us, but I can tell you,
mhm,
I do get responses from people saying, thank y'all for, having that subject on last night, or I
mm,
really needed to hear that, or I was coping with that, and I was just grappling and trying to pull it all together. But once I listened to you all's podcast, I felt like I was alive again. So
yeah.
I will
Wow.
continue to pray. So I just want to tell you that people are praying. We just continue to ask them. When Kenneth did the interview on me, that's one of the questions that he asked.
Mhm,
How is it
mhm.
overwhelming? And it can be running a podcast. It's
It
not
can.
a fly by night thing because we put everything we got into it, and we have
Mhm.
spent
Everything.
tireless amounts of hours trying to perfect it. And so
Mhm.
here is the thing that I believe that we pray for one another. We pray for our viewers. We have
We
prayed
pray for our viewers.
off of this platform for
Mhm.
viewers, thanking each and every viewer for supporting our platforms, because this is not the
Mhm.
only platform that we have. We got Jacqueline's
Mhm.
Life Well Lived. We got our own Facebook pages, our
Mhm.
business
Mhm.
Facebook pages. We got
Mhm.
Instagram. So our face is everywhere. And you got prayers, and I'm
Mhm.
telling you, I get the responses, and we got people outside of the United States,
We do. We do.
so
We
even
do.
that.
We do.
Okay,
We
but
do.
they're probably ready for us to start talking
Ready for
about
us to
stuff.
start.
So
Well,
go ahead, Jackie.
Well, what we're going to talk about tonight, um, we're going to talk about the myths and realities regarding transplant, living with a transplant recipient. I'm going to tell you, just right off the top, that I am not personally the one who lives with the transplant recipient. It is one of my very, very dear friends, but she does not want to be videoed. And I can understand that. Number one reason is because her husband, who was the transplant recipient, died a year ago. But I want to tell you her story, their story. And I want to make one of the number one things that I want to make understand it, because there were so many things that I didn't understand.
Yes.
What most of us know about someone getting a transplant is, oh, they got a new heart. Yay! Oh, they got a new kidney. Yay! And it is yay. It is wonderful. It is an amazing experience. However, one of the big misconceptions that we have is that once you get the new kidney or the new heart or the new lungs, that everything is hunky-dory fine. These people who receive these transplant organs, they have to take anti-rejection medicine for the rest of their life. They have to talk their body, they have to keep their body from rejecting this foreign object, because this heart or lung or kidney was not made by them. It was not created by them. So, I always thought, oh, you got a transplant, life is wonderful. Now, because that's how it's kind of portrayed on television.
Yeah.
You got a transplant and now I'm great. And it is true that it is great, because all of a sudden, for example, my friend was going to dialysis. Had gotten to the point where he was going to dialysis every other day. Every other day. Now, let me tell you a little bit about his life. He's never been a drinker, never smoked, was very healthy. As a matter of fact, he was teaching an aerobics class for businessmen at the local gym. He was teaching that class, but he had to go in and have an annual physical. And when he went in to have his physical, the doctor said, oh, there's something wrong with your lab numbers here. Let's do some more tests. And it turned out that, thank you, God, that he did go in for that physical, because he would have been dead within a couple of weeks if he had, because his kidney had shut down and he didn't know it. But that's how sneaky it can be. It's thank you, Jewel. I appreciate that. That's how sneaky it can be when an organ starts to fail. Sometimes you might be a little tired. That he told me, he would be a little bit worn out, and he would say, man, I'm pushing too far. He had his own business that he ran, a large office with, I think, 30 employees, something like that, that he managed. And he had a very busy lifestyle, a wife, and at that time, a 15-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And next thing he knows, he goes to the doctor, and the doctor said, you have to go on dialysis now. Now. And most people, to be truthful, that I discovered, yes, dialysis will save your life. But most people who go on dialysis stop working. They're no longer able to work, because dialysis is very taxing. They put this port, they put this shunt thing here in your arm, and it's a port, kind of a port that they can plug their needle into for the transfusion, because what dialysis is doing, it's taking your blood and washing it out. It's getting all the toxins out of your blood, because that's what your kidneys do. They clean your blood. And so for him anyway, and I'm specifically talking about a kidney transplantation here because that's what I know. And so he would go in 3 times a week, but he never stopped working. He did cut his business down a little bit, but this is a man who never stopped working. And he kept his office open through this entire going to dialysis. And he did dialysis for 3 years before a kidney became available. Now, all of his family got tested. Everybody that knew him went in and got tested. And that's another part of transplant that people have to understand, especially when it's a heart or a lung transplant. Um, for someone to give up a heart or a lung, not so much a kidney, because if they're healthy, they've still got one kidney left.
Okay.
But you understand that that person has died. You are receiving an organ because somebody died.
Yeah.
And in his case, even receiving that kidney was because a very young man, actually a 12-year-old boy, died.
Okay.
And he just happened to be in a match for my friend. And so part of being a transplant recipient is recognizing the life that was given to you. And that's difficult.
Yeah.
It was years, and they always, at the transplant center, they always say, do you want to contact the family of your donor? And it took years. After about 6 or 7 years, he did write them a letter. But understanding that a 12-year-old boy had died and saved a lot of lives. His parents donated his organs, so saved a lot of lives. I don't know how he died. That was never communicated to me. But his eyes, his heart, his lungs, everything. They donated everything that could possibly be donated. And so this young boy saved a lot of lives. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional about it.
That's okay.
And so I want to ask everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had a question as you were talking. What came to mind? Some of the things. What are some of the myths about transplants? Because sometimes people are afraid to get them because there's so many myths out there about it. And then could you tell us a few of the myths and some of the facts?
Okay, so here's a fact. The anti-rejection medicine that the recipient takes kills their immune system. Okay, so when you have someone who has received a transplant, and they used to be someone who would hang out with you, go out to dinner, go to social events, go to baseball games. Think how we were living when the pandemic first started and nobody did anything because you couldn't be out in a crowd where you might be exposed. And Electra and I are still both that way. But when you receive a transplant, most people who receive a transplant obey that directive, that because now they have no immune system, they can't catch a cold, they can't bronchitis, pneumonia, anything that they catch is going to put them in the hospital. So when this transplant recipient, they've got a transplant, and now you want to have a dinner in their behalf and you want to invite all their friends, and they say no.
So
understand.
So that's an automatic thing when you have a transplant, that you have to start minimizing the company that you're around,
minimizing your social contact,
your social circle. Okay, and that's a fact. Another question I want to piggyback on that is when you say anti-rejection medicine, can you share that a little with us as well as you're going through the facts and the myths?
The anti-rejection medicine is basically it's massive and very specialized amounts of steroids.
Okay.
So what do we know about steroids? You've seen athletes that, years later will confess, yes, I took steroids, and they've got biceps, the size. But then once they stop taking the steroids, it starts affecting all their muscles. Their muscles start losing elasticity, and they start their bones. They're more susceptible to arthritis and osteoarthritis because steroids are and steroids is what they need to give me when I have my surgery.
Okay.
I can talk about steroids a little bit because I have Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease. When I was 23, I ended up in the hospital because it got so bad, and I was in the hospital for 45 days. And in that 45 days, in order to save my life, they gave me massive, massive, massive doses of steroids. And one thing that you can look at a person and tell if they've had massive doses of steroids by several things. And one is, it's not as noticeable to me as it used to be, but you see these little moon face. This is steroid bumps. I also have a hump on my back. It's not all that noticeable. Sometimes you'll see people who have a very noticeable hump on their back. Mine is small enough, and I was active enough younger that my steroid bump is small. But I've actually been in places like walking down the hall in the hospital to go visit somebody, and doctors, especially if it's a training hospital like Ben Taub or St. Louis, any of the hospitals where UTMB. I've actually had interns, or groups of doctors who the doctor is taking the interns on the rounds, to show them that they've stopped me in the hall.
Okay.
I said, "Oh, look, there's a steroid recipient," and I said, "Ma'am, do you mind if we feel your?"
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't mind." And ask all of his students to come feel the hump, and they'll recognize it. Healthcare professionals recognize it, the minute they see you, that you've had what's called a steroid push, at least. And I had a 6-month steroid. Okay. So
how long was this person that you're talking about on steroids?
He was on steroids for he actually got two transplants.
Okay.
His first transplant did eventually fail, and that is nature of the way it goes.
Okay.
And his second transplant, he was on steroids actually for a total of 42 years.
Okay.
He was 30. He was only 30 when his no, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think.
That's okay. Take
how
your time.
old his daughter. I'm trying to think how old his daughter is, and he had her. So he was 45 when he started.
Okay.
And he died at 78. So he was on steroids for 35 years.
Oh, okay.
And so his bones were affected. His bones his bones would break like that.
Okay.
He had to be very careful about in his house. Anything that had a sharp corner, they had that styrofoam stuff around the corners, so that if he bumped it, it wouldn't break a bone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that steroids do, like I said, they kill your that kills your immune system. It damages your immune system. Now, it stops damaging your immune system when you get off of them, but he never got off of them. I did. I was able to stop steroids. And there have been a few times since with my Crohn's disease that I've had to have them again. But steroids will eventually destroy your immune system that helps keep you from catching a cold, that helps keep you from getting skin infections. One thing that happens with steroids is that over time, your skin stops creating new cells, and your skin gets so thin that you could reach and pick something up and tear the skin off of a finger. Whoa. I've seen that so many times with this man.
One of the things I want to want you to kind of mention. Say, for instance, the scenario, you don't know who might see the video, and some people may become afraid and start rejecting taking steroids. And I don't want that to happen, and you don't want that to happen. Either. So just kind of, what would you say to them? Somebody like, maybe they just not getting to that point where they got to make a decision to get on steroids. What would you say to them? Like you would say to your friend?
Right now, one of the things that I do is I tutor. I have some students that I tutor in various stuff. And one of my students, just this past December, had to make a choice. to go on a long-term steroid push. And this is what I told her.
Okay.
I said, I'm going to tell you the negative parts. I'm not going to lie to you. Because people were all trying to play it up like it was no big deal. But she had read so much on the internet and whatever that she was terrified. She was like, what this is going to do to me. And I basically, I told her she had two children. She has two children, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Her daughter is 2. And I asked her, do you want to be there when your daughter has her sweet 16 party? Do you love your child? Do you love your children, your husband, your family enough that you are willing to do what it takes to be there for them? Because they love you that much. It's worth it to them for you, for them to have to say, okay, so we won't go out to have picnics with 100 people. Okay, won't go out and have a dinner, a banquet, and invite 200 people. We'll just have family get-togethers and whatever. Do you love your daughter? Do you love your son enough to want to be there when she turns 16? Do you want to be there when your son gets married? Do you want to be sitting on the porch in a rocking chair with your husband when you get old and gray? If you do, and the doctors have told you that you need to get that the only thing that's going to save your life right now is steroids. And steroids is a last ditch thing. It is very much a last ditch thing. They don't give them to you blindly because they know what the after effects are. So if they're to the point of giving you steroids, they know they've tried everything else.
Yes.
And it's not working.
Yes.
So if you're worried about taking steroids because you've heard all the bad things, let me tell you the good things. I was able to live long enough to get married, get divorced, hey, what the heck?
What the heck?
Get not only an associate's degree, but I got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a graduate certificate in another subject altogether. I would have done, I was 23 and I wouldn't have made it to 24 without those steroids. And without, and I was able to stop taking them. And my student that had to have them over the holidays, she has just stopped taking them. Actually just started her step down.
Okay.
Another thing with steroids, you cannot take steroids and then just stop taking steroids. It is massively painful for your body. You have to step down. So like if you're taking 60 milligrams of a steroid a day, which is what I was taking, then you step down to 55 for a week. And then you step down to 50 for, you step it down 5 at a time, because your bones and your muscles are loving this. They're loving this energy that it's getting from a steroid.
Yeah.
And it doesn't want you to give it up. So as you give it up, your bones and your muscles and just everything in your body objects. It's worth getting the steroids to save your life, and it's worth going through the step down to get off of.
Yes. Oh.
That's why I say I had a steroid push for 6 months. I had the push for 3 months, and it took me another while to get off the steroids.
Yeah.
And I avoid steroids like the plague now.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah.
I can. But whenever there are certain things that are going on, like what's going on with my neck right now, they said they will have to use some steroids in that process.
Okay.
But that is something that I can answer personally, because I do have this student who did have this concern, and I asked her, and I'll ask all of you who are watching, do you have grandchildren? Do you have sisters and brothers? Do you have people who love you? Because the people who love you want you to take those steroids so that you will still be here.
Yes.
In a year, and 2 and 3 and 4. They want you to be there for to see your first grandchild.
Yeah. Yes.
They want that. And that's, how do I say this? I believe and whether anybody else believes it or not, it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
that all good things come from God.
Yes.
I also
Yes.
believe that Satan can take any good thing and make it a bad thing if he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that all medication is bad.
That's
It
right.
means that you need to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know the facts. When you get prescribed a medicine, you need to go and research it and look it up
Mm-hmm.
and see what it's going to do to you.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So don't, and a lot of people won't take a steroid because they've seen, all these athletes who end up, with uh, terrible diseases later. Well, I have muscular dystrophy
Mm-hmm.
as, I use a wheelchair. I would eventually have gotten muscular dystrophy because it was in my genetic makeup anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But because I took the steroids, I got it sooner than I probably would have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was diagnosed in 2007. I went in the wheelchair in 2009. So, as one doctor put it to me very clearly, I was telling him, I was moaning and groaning a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because um, I have, I can't walk. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this was 15 years ago. So I was a lot better then than I am now, and I was moaning and groaning and like, oh, I'm too young to have all this. And he looked at me and he said, but you're alive. He said,
That's
God
right.
gave you this 15 years. You
Mm-hmm.
got 15 years that you weren't going to get
Yes.
because you were willing to take the steroid.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I want to say to anybody who
Mm-hmm.
gets put. Don't do it haphazardly. No.
Yeah.
Ask the doctor if there are other options. But a doctor won't even try steroids if there are other options,
Yeah.
because steroids do have this side effect.
Uh-huh.
And so always ask. But
Mm-hmm.
the anti-rejection medicine, and I don't know the exact name of it, and I'm
That's
not going to go look
okay.
it up.
That's okay. Mm-hmm.
But it is a combination of medicines, and part of it is
Mm-hmm.
steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are going to have the side effects that massive steroids leave you with,
Mm-hmm.
which is, people would look at this person, who received the transplant and think he looked so healthy because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, his face was nice and full and, all that kind of stuff. But what they didn't see was what was underneath all of that.
Yeah.
He always wore gloves because his hands were so torn up
Mm-hmm.
because the skin had gotten so bad that when he was at work, he always wore gloves because he didn't want anyone to know how bad his skin had gotten.
Yeah.
And he always, when he wasn't wearing the gloves, think about at the beginning of this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we were washing our hands every 5 minutes, right?
Yes. Had to. Had to.
Had to. And so my friend, he started living pandemic lifestyle, 30 years before the rest of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
washing his hands constantly, wearing a mask anytime he went out,
Mm-hmm.
in public, wearing a mask. They anytime they traveled, and they did do some traveling
I
because
was going to ask you about that. How
Mhm,
important when someone goes through a transplant, and
mhm,
earlier you was talking about, taking care of someone with a
mhm,
transplant, the
mhm,
patient.
mhm,
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because when you start talking about them traveling, I just want to
mhm,
people to
mhm,
know how
mhm,
life is. Do people just stop life because they got the transplant, or
right.
how do you as a witness to it? What did you
Mhm,
see, and how important
mhm.
did you
My
find that to
friends,
be?
through it all, they felt like they wanted to continue having a life,
Hmm.
whatever life they could have. So, so one thing that they did every summer is they went on a cruise with their daughter.
Okay.
Now, when you go on a cruise, if anybody of you have been on a cruise, you know that you pack way too much clothes. You bring 16 pairs of shoes and you really should have just brought two. imagine if you have to pack an entire extra suitcase with your own linens because you don't know what soap they're using. You can't use the linens on the cruise ship. You don't know what soap they've cleaned with. You don't know um, how the careful the cabin attendants were, cleaning and whatnot. So she always, my friend, the wife, who was actually my friend, packed the to-go suitcase,
Okay.
and the to-go suitcase had linens, bed sheets, pillow cases, everything you need for the bed, towels, and massive amounts of cleaning supplies.
Okay.
Because they couldn't have the purser or the people from the cruise ship come into their room.
Okay.
And this was not just on a cruise ship. If they went anywhere where they stayed in a hotel, same. A totally disinfecting that hotel room, 3 or 4 times a day,
Okay.
because you got, he could not catch anything. If he could not catch anything,
Okay.
that may, and there are germs around us all the time. We just don't know it because our immune systems can fight them off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the reasons with the pandemic, the reason we've had to all stay in is because there are some germs that our bodies have no defense against. Well, imagine if your body had no defense against any germ, any bacteria. And that's where my friend was. So yes, they did travel. They did. But there was always an extra, and we're not talking about a little overnight bag of extra stuff. We're talking about a big, honking suitcase. Even when they would fly on a plane,
Okay.
um, she would always go on first, find their seats, wipe, clean the seats, completely disinfect the seats. And then they had these, and you can buy them. Lots of people buy them. They have like a cover that goes over an airplane seat, like a blanket, like a quilted cover. And so they had their own covers. So first she would disinfect the seat, and then they put this cover over it. And of course wear a mask the entire time, not eat or drink anything that's given them.
Okay.
Bring their own food onto the plane.
Okay.
And whenever they would go someplace and they would stay at a hotel, they always stayed at one of those extended stay places that have a kitchen.
Okay. Okay.
Because they cook their own food.
Oh.
They would find the closest she would find the grocery store and go buy groceries, for however long they're going to be there, and cook. So it really wasn't much of a vacation.
You
But,
know, just for 1 minute, I just chime in, because what you're saying is so informative. And I'm going to tell you, I know that I didn't know. That's why I'm asking all these questions, is because I didn't know. I have no clue how it is for a person with a transplant, or if I ever ran into that situation. You are really educating myself and the viewers on tonight, and those who will look at this later on, because
I hope so.
I understand staying in an extended stay. That's like a key thing, because you cook in your own. I wouldn't have knew to do that. If I had a loved one that had the transplant, even myself. So that to me is just magnificent information, just to know.
And not just cooking your own food when you're out on vacation, cooking your own food at home, making your own. I mean, there are a lot of people who are great cooks and they cook all the time. Oh, hallelujah. More power to you. But give me some frozen chicken nuggets that I can put in the oven. I'll take them. No, they would not eat they would not eat food with a lot of preservatives in it.
Yeah.
Because the preservatives, you never know who's handled that.
Okay.
And what, even though they've irradiated it and UV lighted it, and and done everything that the manufacturer's done everything they can possibly do to make sure that there are no germs in there or no bacteria. There's no way to be 100% sure.
Okay.
No way.
Yeah.
Unless you prepare it yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
So think about, me, I love fried chicken, right?
Me too.
I had fried chicken today. And but if they wanted fried chicken, they had to fry the chicken.
Okay.
They can't go to KFC. They can't go to, churches.
Because of the handling of it.
Not just because of the handling, but because whatever preservatives might be. Might be. And he didn't take just one anti-rejection medicine. As a matter of fact, he and I had a little contest that went on for years. Who takes more medicine in a day?
Yeah.
I'm down to only 19 prescribed medicines a day.
Okay. Yeah.
Every year, and 19 is a lot, but I take 19 different prescribed medicines.
Once a day or just throughout the week?
Some of them I take twice a day.
Okay.
Some of them I take twice a day. Some of them I take once every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I have an injection that I have to have that I do every 2 weeks. I have another injection that I have to take that's every 3 months. So I count that.
Yeah.
Infusions, where you have to go. It's very much like dialysis. You go, you sit in a chair for hours, and you have a needle in your arm, slowly dripping medicine into your body. It's called an infusion, and it takes hours, and it's very painful. Now, it's painful because. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want you to finish that. Go ahead.
Infusions are very painful for several reasons. One is because you have to pretty much stay still. And as any of you who have muscle problems or bone problems, staying still is painful. Mm-hmm. And second of all, sometimes the medication, as it comes in, it gives a burning sensation that just starts to spread throughout your whole body. Mm-hmm. And so I have one of those every 3 months that I have to do. Oh. And that's not bad. There are people who have to have infusions every month. Yeah. So I'm very blessed.
Yeah.
Every 3 months, but it's painful.
You said your friend lived for 45 years. How long have you been going through this process, you would say, in total so far?
I was 23 when I was diagnosed. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of gastrointestinal pain before that for years. But I didn't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
My family wasn't one of those doctors we didn't have insurance.
Okay.
So we didn't go to the doctor unless, you had to be copious amounts of blood to go to the hospital. Yeah. Right? So I had this pain for years, and it really affected my, eating and everything. Mm-hmm. But when I was 23 was when I finally got diagnosed, and I started on medication. And just because I got off of the steroids, I didn't get off of the other medications since I was 23.